off by saying how excited we are about this Uncaged Festival, and I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how you feel about being able to play at such a massive festival.
Well, obviously, I'm very excited after spending quite a bit of time in lockdown, like everybody else. There's a lot of pent-up energy, and there's a lot of it feels like we've been pulled back, and we're just being ready to be released, kind of thing. So that's going to be awesome, and the Uncaged Festival itself seems like a great thing. Number one, it's like all Australian rock music, which I'm a huge fan of, and also it's quite diverse. You've got a lot of old school bands who are good old friends of mine, like the Hard-Ons and the Meanies and Magic Dirt, or Wolf Mother, and you've got a whole bunch of young whippersnappers coming up as well that are going to be nice as well, because one of the things I've always really loved about festivals is that element of surprise, stumbling across something that you don't know about and being blown away by it. So I'm hoping that might be the case as well. So there's everything to look forward to with Uncaged.
A lot of people go along to these shows and they end up discovering bands that they've never heard before, and they walk away fans. Is that something that you're aware of, especially when you're playing at a festival like Uncaged, where, like you said, there's a lot of the younger bands there that's fans are going to be there, and perhaps they haven't heard of some of the older bands going around the traps?
Yeah, I think that's one of the best things about festivals. There's always that. I remember doing the, I think it was Farmer and Owl Festival in Wollongong. There was lots of bands I didn't know on it. A Party Dozen, and who I fell in love with, and there were heaps. I think Amel and the Sniffers were new then, and they were amazing. They blew everybody away. That's always a great part of festivals, is that unknown, the element of the unknown, and who's going to rise to the challenge on the day and just blow everybody away. I think that's really cool. I mean, you can't know everything, and I'm pretty out of touch with stuff that's going on now, so it's a good opportunity for me. Although I really like hearing new stuff, it's a good opportunity to see some new stuff that hasn't crossed my path before. So yeah, it's great.
You mentioned about there's always going to be that band that blows everybody away on the day. Do you almost see that as a challenge to be that band on the day?
I used to, and I suppose a little bit. You always want to, I suppose, because it's a festival and you're one of many, you want to stand out, you want to do a good show. And yeah, so it'd be a lie to say that that wasn't the case, because you always want to go out there and blow everybody away. That's the kind of band that Tumbleweed are. A very energetic live force. So we want to, definitely try and blow people away. Always have, but it could happen any time, so
yeah.
It's always the goal. It's always the goal.
You mentioned that it's been a difficult 18 months, 2 years, especially for those of us that work in the arts industry. Tell us a little bit about what it's been like for you guys being in lockdown. This should have been a huge celebration of a year for Tumbleweed, being the 30th anniversary. What's it been like for you being in lockdown and not being able to get out there and celebrate with your fans?
It's been kind of weird. It's we had, like you say, being our 30th year, we had a big year planned. We were going to do a national tour. We were going to get an old band called Fridge back together. We're going to come on the road with us, and it was all going to culminate to this massive big rock festival stadium show with Kiss in Townsville. And along the way, besides the gigs, we were also going to release a lot of singles and a lot of things along the way. And it sort of killed all those plans in a way. But we sort of feel like they're all banked up, and we're still going to just trickle them out and figure out a new way of releasing them next year, and move that tour to next year.
How have you? Sorry, I was going to say, how have you spent the year as well?
Well, that's the thing. The year has sort of been a lot of retrospection, and everybody's sort of been living in their own little bubble. I've quite enjoyed being in the bubble. It's been good for me. I've written more songs than I've ever written in my life this year, and that's been cathartic and therapeutic and awesome. And also spending time with family, and that's been a really important thing too. I think everybody through this lockdown time has reevaluated what's important in their lives, and that's been one of the blessings of having that forced time of introspection. But also writing things, as far as the band goes, writing things for articles and for a book that we're putting together that is coming out next year. I've had to sort of like delve into my memory and try and pull out some stories from the past 30 years. And that's been interesting. It's been good. It's been good going back and thinking about things. I mean, most people live in the present, or they're looking toward the future, or they're making plans for the future. And, you tend not to look back, even though being in a band where, your golden years was sort of like years ago, and you're often asked to look back there. It's kind of unusual because you have to sort of, I find now through this year I've had enough distance and enough time between to really look at events that I might have been emotionally attached to and sort of disassociate myself a little bit and be able to see what the story of the event was and what the good that came out of it was. So that's been really cool. That's been a really cool aspect of actually retrospection and looking back over the past 30 years.
I found also that my own creativity has risen during this last 18 months because I've spent more time around family and less time traveling to work. I don't have to do that 1 hour commute into the city. I can go bushwalking and things like that. You mentioned that your creativity's been at its peak as well. What do you think has sparked that creativity over the last 12 months?
I think just sort of a different mindset where you're not sort of rushed, a little bit more presence. I think, like you say, going bushwalking, I do that all the time, and try and get it. So even during lockdown, I'm lucky living in Wollongong on the escarpment, where even when we had this 5 kilometre radius curfew, within my 5 kilometres, I could go for a swim at the beach, or I could go for a bushwalk up on the escarpment. So I was doing that every day, and having I don't know, it gets you to a good, nice, relaxed state of mind that you can access your creative side more easily without being sort of distracted. So that was good. Not having distractions. Also, a lot of things. Having that time, it gives you time to think as well, so you got more to say. I think you're not repeating stuff you've heard at work or whatever. You're sort of a little bit more in touch with your own thoughts. So I suppose that sort of contributed to it. And just the time, with nothing else to do, sort of being able to just sit at home and you just pick up the guitar and noodle on it because there's nothing else to do. And it becomes fun, when you get better at it. And as you get better at it, it becomes more addictive, and you keep doing it more and more, and you start writing more and more songs. So that's what I found.
Yeah, you mentioned about also putting together the book as well for the 30th anniversary. What was that like going back and looking over that last 30 years?
Pretty incredible, pretty funny. Lots of things. Steve, our drummer, is an amazing collector. He never throws anything away. He's got everything. So photos that, we never thought would ever see the light of day. We're sort of like putting together a scrapbook with no holds barred. It's like warts and all, it's everything. So there's some great moments in there. But I mean, there were some really, sadly, there were, a lot of moments that we didn't capture because I suppose when we did begin, you didn't take a camera around with you very often. There was no phones or anything like that. So, and I remember we did take cameras on the Nirvana tour, but they were confiscated. Like, we weren't allowed to take our cameras into the venue by the touring, what do they call them, the promoters. Yeah. So we thought that sucked. But yeah, it's amazing going through some of those times. You realise how much you've done, and a lot of it I couldn't remember. And sometimes the photo would just spark the memory. There's so much I've forgotten. It's amazing. But you see photos, and then, or you hear somebody say, "Oh, remember that? This happened," and you go, "No, I don't remember," and then it starts coming back. It's amazing how much I've forgotten. It's just bizarre. I was talking to Steve, our drummer, about it yesterday. I was just saying, "Can you just write down some dot points about something so I can, to spark my memory if I have to write a story about a particular thing?" But yeah. That's one of the things.
When you guys started out 30 years ago, if someone had said to you in 30 years' time, you guys will still be playing shows and still have a really, really big fan base, what would you have said to them? Would you have believed them?
No, I wouldn't have. It sort of just sort of comes up and creeps up on you, and before you know it, it's like 30 years. But no, after all we've been through, and we've broken up a couple of times, and been through everything, like our bass player died, and we've been through drugs and out the other side, and betrayal, and we've found redemption and forgiven each other, and all sorts of things, and come out the other side, and we're probably liking it better than ever now. But I never would have believed it, because I didn't really plan on doing it for that long. But or exploring different avenues. I think after we took a break in year 2000 and coming back together in 2011, when we first jammed together in 2011 for the 15th Home Bake reunion or anniversary, whatever you want to call it, we got in the room and we played for the first time in many years, and we got this feeling of, it was kind of overwhelming. It was like, this is where we're meant to be, kind of thing. It's sort of, we had this appreciation for our sound and our band and what each member brought to it as a collective for the first time, and understood a lot of things that we didn't really understand the first time around. And now we sort of enjoy it for the escape from our realities, whereas earlier on, when it was our reality 24/7, and a lot of that reality became a drag. You were being told to do things you didn't want to do. We had a manager that was really controlling and sorted out our whole career, and we were signed to labels that requested things, and basically our schedule was sort of given to us. And that became a drag if you sort of wanted personal freedom, and we start bickering within each other and stuff like that. And then later on, when we did get the band back together in 2011, we got it back together on our terms and own everything, and it made a big difference. And I think that's contributed to the longevity. Even losing Jay, we stopped for a while and didn't think that would continue on, but Jamie came along and helped us to sort of, I suppose, digest that and sort of move on and cope with it. And he was always a good friend of Jay's, and was very close to him. So he's got this respect and this humble sort of thing about him. And he's sort of brought this different energy to the band where it's just enjoyable seeing each other and being together again. So it's taken a long time to get there and to find that balance, but it's been a heck of a journey, and it's been a good one. It's one that we're really grateful for having the opportunity to do all the things we had in the 90s. That was awesome. I wouldn't ever take that for granted.
Yeah. It sounds like you guys are having a lot of fun again now. I could imagine that when it was feeling like a drag for you, you probably wasn't loving it anymore. Do you think you guys are back in that spot now where you're loving playing together, but also loving putting the music back out there as well?
Yeah, totally. And I think it's all about sort of having that control, and it also being sort of, we've learned how to balance it in our lives. So all of our lives now, we all work and stuff, and when we get back together, when we see each other as a band, our band is our social function as well as our creative function, and we understand each other better than a lot of people that we work with and stuff like that. So when we get together, we're actually seeing real friends, and share a long history. So So that's always really cool. And like I say, it's an escape from our realities, and it's a timeless place. You go back up there and you play a show with Tumbleweed, and you're sort of lost. I could be 21. I feel 21.
Yeah.
So it's really awesome, that aspect of it. And I think that's the addictive thing. Like when you're really rocking out and you're lost in that moment, you could be anywhere at any time. There is no time, and that's really cool. And that keeps bringing us back, I think.
Yeah, that 30 years has also brought about some amazing music that you guys have written. How the hell do you put together a set list for a festival like Uncaged when you've got so many fantastic tracks there in your back catalogue?
Well, yeah, for Uncaged and for a big festival like that, I think what we do is we're going to be grabbing a mixed bag going right back to the early days. So there'll be stuff like maybe Stoned on there, our first single, as this collective, and then and following that through to our last single, which was Shadowland, and trying to mix it up a little bit, but most of what we'll be doing will be the singles, I'd say.
Yeah.
We're doing 5 shows just before Christmas in Wollongong. It's to sort of celebrate being 30, and we thought, okay, let's just have a fun shebang in Wollongong with our favourite Wollongong band supporting each night. And I think that kind of thing's only 100 people in the room. It'll be a punk rock sort of vibe. I think we'll vary that one up and pull out some obscurities and some weird stuff and try some different things just because there's 5 shows and because it's a kind of a party. It'll be a party atmosphere. So we can play some covers and some weird stuff. That'll be cool. But yeah, for something like Uncaged, you want to come out with the best of the best. It'll be the best of Tumbleweed. It'll be picking mostly singles, but over the years we've got ones that we love doing live, and ones that really, perfect for either the first song or the last song, or they have a purpose because they excite people in a big crowd. So we'll be picking those ones, the big crowd songs.
Awesome.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, mate, I know we've run right out of time, but I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us today, and I cannot wait to see you guys play live at Uncaged.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
No problem, mate. I'll let you go. Stay